Financial Planner, follow us on YouTube.
Got a dynamic interview for everybody today. We're going to be talking about cryptocurrency, blockchain, and I got Kendal on the line. He's an entrepreneur, investor, advocate of blockchain technology in particular to the application of global finance, global trade, and social media. We're going to be talking about that today specifically. You can find him at steemit.com/@StephenKendal, and also on Twitter. We'll have the links in the description area. Stephen, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Kenneth. Thanks for inviting me on your show. I'm a massive fan of what you guys are up to, so thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Well, I want to start off kind of with some of the latest news that we're seeing in cryptocurrency, specifically with Bitcoin and the hard fork. And then we're going to be talking about some other things, some other topics, which I know you're very passionate about here later on in the show, which I encourage everyone to stick around for. But to hit on the hot news right now, we've had a fork. The Bitcoin gold fork just happened, about 24 hours ago. And if you recall, in August, we had the Bitcoin Cash fork. And people went into that very scared, very timid. People were worried about having two Bitcoins. And Bitcoin was falling up until the August fork. And after the fork, Bitcoin went crazy. It doubled in price. People were excited about it. People were happy to have the Bitcoin Cash that they got for free, this crypto dividend. Now, I think everyone was basing their experiences off of that last hard fork here in August. This time around with the Bitcoin Gold hard fork, and Bitcoin was going straight through 5,000, went over 6,000 for a little bit, and in anticipation to getting this free Bitcoin Gold. But after the hard fork, now we're seeing it actually pull back. And Bitcoin Gold actually plunged about 66%. I think it's trading around $140 after coming out of the gates around $500. So I know I said a lot right there, but I just want to get your current thoughts on where we are in the Bitcoin ecosystem.
Yeah, sure. The Bitcoin, the actual Bitcoin Classic, a while ago, I put out a video blog and a projection that I'm targeting Bitcoin at $1 million plus. Now, when I first put this target price out, it was met by a lot of abuse and a lot of negativity, and a lot of people challenged why I was saying $1 million plus Bitcoin. Now, along the way, we're going to get hard forks, and we're going to get various different breakouts away from the classic Bitcoin. But you really have to fully understand what actually is Bitcoin and what its futures or future use is going to be. Now, at the moment, we've mined approximately 16 million Bitcoin. There's a cap, as we all know, of 21 million coins, which are probably going to be expected around about 2140. We're talking, 100 plus years away. And the way that the financial system, the global financial system, is going to migrate in the future to a decentralized system as opposed to the centralized system that we're in now, you have to look at the demand and the supply demand. And with them being limited to the 21 million coins, and we've got 16.6 million at the moment, you have to understand that in the future, and when I say in the future, we're not talking that far away. All this projection that I'm making on the $1 million plus Bitcoin is all going to happen within the next decade. So when people say, well, $1 million per Bitcoin is crazy, what I like to do is I like to break it down, and breaking it down into bite-sized chunks. In the future, and we're already starting to see it now, high valued purchases are going to be bought, transacted in Bitcoin. Houses are going to be bought in Bitcoin. Yachts are going to be bought in Bitcoin. High-value cars are going to be bought in Bitcoin. Anything of high value, art, wines, any collectibles that has a high value and is being transferred from one ownership to another, are going to be in the future transacted in Bitcoin. And because Bitcoin is not like a cryptocurrency, not like a fiat currency, there is no reserve. People are misunderstanding that when people buy a house, they take out a bank loan, they take out a mortgage, banks print money, they just print for the demand. Whereas with Bitcoin, because you cannot print Bitcoin, the demand will absolutely outstrip supply. And so in the future, and just to put things in perspective so that people can try and understand where I'm coming from, let's say at the moment there's 16.6 million coins. It's got a market cap at the moment of about 92 billion, maybe 5,500 per Bitcoin. But if you actually look at the number of purchases that actually would be, and let's take a standard purchase, a high volume purchase of $500,000. Well, $500,000 at today's price is actually only 185,000 purchases. So when people start breaking it down into bite-sized chunks and thinking, well, okay, absolutely forget it's $5,500 per Bitcoin, that's totally immaterial. When you look at the usage of what Bitcoin is going to be used for within the next decade, you then say, okay, well, at the moment, today, in 2017, you can buy 185,000 high volume purchases at $500,000. Now, 185,000 houses, if today, everybody moved and started to buy and sell their home with Bitcoin, and there's more and more people now who are not accepting fiat. They are putting houses on the market, they're putting cars on the market, they're putting yachts on the market, and they're insisting on Bitcoin. And because of that, then you have to understand that because there's no reserve, there's no, you can't say, okay, well, I'll lend you a certain number of Bitcoin, or I'll take a derivative out on a certain number of Bitcoin, or I'll go to the bank and take a bank loan out on Bitcoin. Because there's no loan facility, it has to be held. It has to be held. So if you transfer, if you say to me, I'm going to sell you my house, and I will only accept Bitcoin, that means, by definition, I would have to own outright the Bitcoin. Not on loan, I would have to own it. So, of course, at any point in time, when people start realizing that houses are being sold, yachts, cars, at this moment in time, 5,500 per Bitcoin is cheap. It's very cheap. If I'm right in what I'm saying. And if I am right in what I'm saying, I'll start at $1 million per Bitcoin. That's my starting price, not my target.
Steven.
So hopefully that comes across.
Sure. Yeah, I think even $5,000 Bitcoin, I mean, so many people thought that was crazy, right? When we were at $400, $200 Bitcoin, people, the thought that it would even be the same price of gold was completely unthinkable. And when we got to 1,000, it was bubble territory, right? So I guess in lending itself to that, and I guess, touch on this if you would, with the hard fork coming up, and we had, Bitcoin Cash and now Bitcoin Gold, it seems like these altcoins that are being created are almost a non-event. And each one that comes out is almost proving itself to be a reason for why Bitcoin, original, Bitcoin Core, whatever you want to call it, is that immutable, that resilient and why we can put our trust in it for the long term. And I this is all coming to me now in the event of what we saw with Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin Gold, with SegWit 2x coming out here in less than a month. We have a situation where we've had two hard forks, and people might just completely disregard it based on their most recent experiences with these hard forks. Any thoughts on that, and to lend itself to Bitcoin's resilience?
Absolutely. Over the next decade, Kenneth, we'll be having exactly the same conversation all the way up, because what you're going to get is you're going to get these little branches that are going to come off. These hard forks are going to happen. And all it does, it re-cements the demand for the Bitcoin Classic. So, if after Bitcoin Cash there was a complete collapse, and all of a sudden Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin was 1-to-1 and maintained, practically a parity, then of course you would then question Bitcoin. Well, what has actually happened is since the Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin has actually got even stronger. And what's going to happen? And it's purely down to demand. It's purely down to supply and demand, and the belief that it's a transaction that is secure and people can trust it. And really, at 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, we'll have another hard fork, we'll have another one, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000, and this will just keep going up. And when people realise that what is actually happening is all we're finding at the moment is that people are trusting the Bitcoin, are trusting the blockchain, and that is really what is happening. And we haven't even scratched the surface. We have not even scratched the surface, because people will in the future, and when I say in the future, certainly within the next 5 to 7 years, you will have two prices for everything of high value. You'll have a Bitcoin price and you'll have a fiat price. And people will say, stuff your fiat, I don't want it. Why? Because the Bitcoin's going up. So you can lock in. If you had a situation where people were locking in pension funds, pension pots into Bitcoin, you wouldn't even be able to buy Bitcoin.
Well, I guess the devil's advocate approach, and I mean, to be honest, I think most people feel this way because of Bitcoin's volatility, although it's just been going up for the most part. It has been going up. People are hesitant to put a large portion of their wealth into it. They're willing to say, okay, I'm going to put 5 or 10% into Bitcoin and let it ride. But I think they're a little more hesitant to say, okay, I'm going to put 50 or 75% of their current net worth into $5,500 Bitcoin at the moment. Now, for many people who bought in the triple digits or double digit Bitcoin, they might have their net worth 90% in the cryptocurrency right now because of growth. But I think because of the fact that people don't know if Bitcoin, is going to be at 4,500, 4,000 in a few months, people are hesitant to just completely dive in head first with it moving around the way it does. And I guess that's my only concern, even long term. If Bitcoin is moving around the way it does, will people treat it as a store of value, or will they just transact with it and speculate?
Well, if you actually go back, say into 2010 when Bitcoin, was around 10 cents, people were buying thousands of Bitcoin, or if you could, you would be buying thousands of Bitcoin. You'd certainly be buying multiple Bitcoin. Then when it went over the $500, I'm sure there was a lot of people who were just saying, well, I'll just buy one Bitcoin. Now, at any point in time, you have to look not at the number of Bitcoin, but your investment into Bitcoin. So, today, one Bitcoin, 5,500, I'm not saying tomorrow, but certainly when it gets to 55,000, it'll be zero point 0.1 of a Bitcoin. And really people have to understand that when you're investing in Bitcoin, you're investing in fiat. You're not saying, okay, today I'm going to buy 1 Bitcoin and tomorrow I'm going to buy 2 Bitcoin, because tomorrow if the price goes up, then you're just going to have to say, well, I can only afford 0.6 of a Bitcoin. And the more people I talk to now are all saying, my God, I never realised it was capped at 21 million. And I said, well, that's fundamental. So, of course, you don't have to look back maybe, 18 months. If everybody bought a Bitcoin 18 months ago, that is the fundamental thing. So the fact that it's at 5,500 really is kind of irrelevant when it comes to an investment, because there'll come a time where people will be jumping up thinking they've got a bargain because they've just been able to buy 0.01 of a Bitcoin. So at this point in time, there is no doubt about it that the price is going up, and you're going to get these pullbacks. I think when I've got a program that triggered it at about $451. Well, of course, 400, 500, 600, 1,000, then it went parity with gold. And people were saying, well, this is crazy. How can it be parity with gold? It can't maintain that. It's got to come back to 400. And I said, no, it'll just keep going. And the reality is, it's not Bitcoin really going up. It's the fiat currencies that are rapidly going down. That is what is really happening. How many pieces of fiat currency paper do you have to spend to get a Bitcoin? Not how much is a Bitcoin worth. A Bitcoin is actually only worth what people are prepared to pay, and at this moment in time, people are prepared to pay 5,500. Now, if it goes down tomorrow, if it goes up tomorrow, you're going to have to ask yourself: is Bitcoin going up, or is fiat currencies going down? Well, as far as I'm concerned, fiat currencies are going down. That's what's actually happening.
Stephen, let's talk about what's going on with the decentralization of news. And, I've been proud to be running Crush the Street now for a number of years. And I've witnessed on my own channel censorship and videos taken down because the Google and the algorithms and the people in charge didn't necessarily like what I put out. And it's kind of I guess for me, being in the middle of it, I see it. I think the average person who hears this may not truly grasp what is going on and how controlled what we hear is. And the media, the narrative, what we hear on TV, how censored all of that content really is. But we have cryptocurrencies providing decentralized platforms that are breaking this down. And I love what cryptocurrencies are providing for the people. I think somebody put it, they said cryptocurrencies is like trying to contain water in your hands, or trying to contain cryptocurrencies is like trying to contain water. And applying this to news information is such an amazing thing. So that means that no longer are the few people in charge going to be able to control the information that's out there. And one of the platforms that many people are using right now is Steemit. And you mentioned that you believe Steemit, or the Steem, the currency, can become a $500 billion powerhouse. So if you would, I'd like you to touch on this a little bit and tell us why you're so passionate about Steemit.
Okay. In order to try and understand where we're heading, Kenneth, I'd like to just take your listeners back to the mid-1990s. And the reason why I want to do this is I'm going to walk you through the evolution of social media. Now, in the mid-1990s, we had chat rooms. So, of course, you would go home. There was no mobile phones. You would go home. You would dial up on your internet. You'd be able to talk in a chat room, and that was great. And around the mid-1990s, obviously, we had the BBC, NBC, CNN, Fox News, CBC. We had all these news channels. And really, at that point, it's all centralized. So the information that you're actually sharing or gathering and listening to and watching is all coming through from a central location. Then, of course, in the late 1990s, we had the advent of text messages. Now, I say that the birth of social media was at the time when we could instantly text message somebody from our mobile. So you could be outside, you could be, in front of something that's happened horrifically. You could see it, you could witness it, you could text somebody. And that, to me, was the start of mobile social media. Then, of course, in 2001, we saw the advent of Friends Reunited. 2003, LinkedIn, Facebook in 2004, YouTube in 2005, and Twitter in 2006. And then in 2007, we had the smartphone. So in 2007, you was then able to take a video, share it, but of course you're still on a centralized location, so you'd be pushing that video content through to a platform which would then censor it, share it, but would actually condition the sharing of it, because again, it's fully centralized. Then, of course, as we know, we just talked about it, Bitcoin was launched in 2009, and really that was the start of the blockchain technology. Now, blockchain, for your listeners that are unfamiliar, is effectively a decentralized network of computers that not one person owns the data. So in 2009, with the advent of Bitcoin, that then really was the start of the migration from a centralized environment to a decentralized environment. Now, at that point in 2008, 10 years ago, or 9 years ago, the moment I saw Bitcoin, the first thing I said was, what would happen if we had a social media website on the blockchain, a fully decentralized social media website? So 10 years ago, I set out looking for it. Well, of course, it took probably 4, 5, 6 years until around about the 2015, 2016, when I suddenly realized that with the advent of all these cryptocurrencies that were coming out, it was purely a matter of time that a website, a platform would be launched. And I got a phone call, and I remember the phone call, it was in August of last year, and somebody said, have you been looking for a blockchain social media site? And I said, yeah. He said, we think we found it. Check out Steemit. So I said, okay. And I remember it was quite late at night and I was very tired. So I picked up my computer, went straight onto steemit.com, and within seconds, I knew exactly it was what I was looking for. So I was very passionate from day one, and I think I joined when there was around about 40,000 users. Today we're about 450,000 registered users. And at that point, I knew straight away that this was going to be the start of a complete new decentralized social media environment, because you're involved in a system now where no one owns the data. I blog regularly, and I can share my information. And of course, there is censorship, because if people within the community, if I offend people, if it's wrong, if I put up any information that is not right, it then gets flagged. Well, of course, it's very clear that you only have to look at what information is actually held now on the Steemit block or the Steem blockchain, and that is a source of truth. Well, we haven't even scratched the surface. We've got just under 500,000 users. Can you imagine a situation where we've got, hundreds of millions of users? And of course, recently there's just been an announcement made that they're going to propose to launch smart media tokens, where effectively it'll be leveraging the Steem blockchain. So instead of saying we've got 500,000 users on Steemit, which is a very small part of the Steem ecosystem, what you can do now is all these news pages or news websites, they can create their own currency. So if you've got a news website, let's call it, I don't know, for Kenneth's News, and you've got 100,000 subscribers, and each of your subscribers are all talking, about videos and podcasts, and they're putting in their contribution. People upvote it, they're commenting on it. Well, what actually will happen is your users will be rewarded in a Kenneth coin. So once you've got a situation like this, people will then say, well, how many Kenneth coins for a Steem coin, or how many Kenneth coins can I buy with, for a Bitcoin? And all of a sudden people will be trading. And I would say within the next decade, you'll be getting these social media coins, and these social media coins will be backed by content. And that content, the value of that content will be determined about the value of the coin. And at the moment, Steem is worth, or the Steem's got a market cap of around 250 million, and it's trading at around about a dollar per coin. What I've said in the future is that if you leverage the Steem blockchain and it does what I think it's going to do, 500 billion, that's about right. That's pocket change, really. I mean, if you look at, the likes of Facebook or Twitter or any reasonable size social media site at the moment, what's 500 billion in the overall scheme of things? It's nothing, really.
I had a recent, Stephen, not to cut you off, but I just wanted to throw this in. I had a recent guest who talked about this same sort of thing, basically this sort of Stephen coin or Kenneth coin, or basically any sort of metric to value either a person or a business, and people will trade that. And I thought it was really interesting. His thought was we would eventually get to a point where maybe we would use artificial intelligence, we'd use some sort of company, whoever we all trusted or a group of people trusted, to manage a basket of currencies, and that would be like our MasterCard or our Visa card, and we would swipe it, but it would be a basket of all these decentralized tokens out there. And I thought that was really interesting. I know it's kind of so far out in front of, I guess what we are thinking about or where our minds are able to go, but I think it's possible. So I don't know, is that something that because since you mentioned that, do you see that as a potential avenue as to where the future of cryptocurrency and payments and really transactions are going?
100%. Absolutely. Obviously, I wasn't aware of it, but whoever your guest was is absolutely on the nail. And this is something that people have to understand. At the moment, people know that, you've got a dollar or a sterling or a euro, and people know that. They trust that, yeah? They understand that they can go and buy a coffee, they can go to Starbucks, and they give two euros for one Starbucks coffee. But in the future, what will actually happen, you'll have a wallet, and it'll be on your mobile phone, and inside that digital wallet of yours, you might have maybe 100 coins, 100 different types of coins, and you'll have a Starbucks coin, you'll have a Costa Coffee coin, you'll have a Sears coin, or you'll have all these various different outlets, and each of these outlets will be effectively a coin in its own right. So there's all your outlet coins, and then on top of that, you'll have what you would call then your generation coins, the coins that have been created by content. So you might have a Steem coin, or you might have a Ethereum coin, or you might have a Litecoin, and all these coins, and of course we'll have a Bitcoin. So all these coins have all been generated by proof of a concept. So, I would not be at all surprised where within the next 5 to 7 years, the average person would have in their digital wallet anything up to 100 coins, and each one of those coins would be exchangeable from coin to coin and exchangeable for goods and services on the high street.
That's powerful. Really powerful. All right, Stephen. So we're getting to the 30-minute mark here for the call, and it's been I guess it's been for me just like trying to drink from the fire hose. I mean, so much amazing information, and I hope people that are listening to this, people who are really into cryptocurrencies or people who are just getting into it, just take something from these interviews and apply it, or at least familiarize yourself with it, because I really think this is the future. And if you don't at least take some time to learn about it or familiarize yourself, you might be sitting on the side while the train is leaving the station. So, Stephen, let's get your final thoughts here, your concluding thoughts that you would like to leave the audience with before we close out this interview.
Okay, 10 years ago, I set out looking for a social media website, and I mentioned earlier on that I was blown away in August last year when Steemit came along. And for me, I believe that the Steemit platform and the Steem ecosystem is going to revolutionize social media way beyond even the smartest of people that I've been talking to. So, I would highly recommend that if any of your listeners out there who haven't even, are not aware of Steemit, haven't seen it, have a look at it, jump on it, and join it. And if you do join, mention us in one of your blogs, and I'll make sure I give you an upvote. Yeah.
Sounds good, Stephen. Well, hey, everybody, it was a pleasure for us to have Stephen Kendal on. If you would give us a thumbs up and, say something nice in the comments here, or say whatever you feel. Honestly, I'm not going to censor you guys. But, honestly, Stephen, thanks for coming on.